Behold! We've got our hands on the latest rules expansion for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Well met, travelers. I'm Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes.
So on today's episode, we're taking a look at this amazing addition to Dungeons & Dragons. And it is Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And it is a beautiful book full of amazing information.
Xanathar's Guide to Everything is a full rules expansion for both players and Dungeon Masters for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Today, we've got our copies of the limited special edition cover featuring art by Hydro74. It came out on November 10th in our favorite local game store, but it will be available widely with art by Jason Rainville on the cover on November 21st. And it's about $50 US, $60 Canadian. Regardless of which cover you get, the book inside is exactly the same.
Yeah.
This is just like in Volo's Guide to Monsters, both of which have a similar naming scheme, in that Hydro74 has done this amazing limited edition art, but then afterwards you can get a copy of it with the standard art wherever your favorite D&D books are sold.
Let's talk about this beautiful art.
Yes, let's indeed.
First of all, look at how beautiful this gold is on here. I love it. It just kind of pops, and I mean, the gold is a good choice because of Xanathar's pet goldfish, Sildar.
Yes, Silgar.
Yeah. Silgar.
You're confusing it with Sildar Halfwinter
from
the starter set. Yeah, it's Silgar, and this is the Xanathar looking at Silgar on the front. Both the covers are kind of like this.
How about them eyes?
Yeah, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Where's the 10th?
10, right up at the top.
Right up there.
And then the big anti-magic cone eye right in the back. Yeah. Speaking of the back cover also looks really, really gorgeous. I think that this might be just the most beautiful D&D book that's come out in 5th edition.
It's so pretty. I feel bad putting it on the shelf with my other books. I want it like in its own little special place.
I think I might buy another copy of it, of the non-special edition, to use at the table, just so I don't have to tarnish this beautiful copy.
I have already ordered another copy for my players to use their grubby little paws on while I get to, treasure this one.
It's a really beautiful book, and that follows through inside and out as well. As I said, the book itself has 3 main chapters to it. What are they, Kelly?
The 3 main chapters are the first one being new player options, which includes 31 new subclasses.
As well as 1 or 2 racial feats for every core race in the player's handbook.
Yeah, and
a really cool section on how to make your character's backstory even more detailed.
Yeah, if you're not good at coming up with your own backstory, there is an entire section of just charts that you can roll on to determine everything about your backstory. Are your parents dead? Are they alive? Who were they? How many siblings
do you have? Yeah. The first time I rolled it, I got 12.
12 siblings?
12 siblings. Imagine being a D&D character with 12 siblings.
Where did you fall into the spectrum of the siblings?
I didn't roll out that much of it, but the second chapter of the book is a huge DM toolkit, which is an expansion of a whole bunch of systems that were touched on the Dungeon Master's Guide, including things like how to award magic items, how to build complex traps, how to build better, more balanced combat encounters, downtime,
tools.
Yes, and a whole bunch of rules for using for giving players more options to use their tool proficiencies in the game, which is really awesome.
I found that in the first player's handbook, people with tool proficiencies.
Yeah, you're like, what is this for?
What do you do with that?
It gives a lot of great examples.
It's so good.
Yeah. And then the third section of the book is about 100 new spells.
Yes. Some of which, my favorite thing about the spell list presented in Xanathar's Guide to Everything is there's a lot of new spells that deal with intelligence saving throws, which was kind of absent in the original spell list.
Yeah, as well, there's a bunch of spells that are really great world-building spells that allow player characters to actually affect the world by, like, summoning a temple or building a fortress. or making a magical druid's grove. As well, I do think that some of the spells address some of the balance issues with some of the different spellcasters in D&D.
I would say necromancers now have a lot
Dance
of new...
Macabre.
Yeah, Dance Macabre. We'll be talking about that
We'll
one.
be talking about our favorite spells. So all of these chapters of the book are really, really detailed. And so that we can give great coverage of them, we've actually dedicated an entire video to each chapter. You can find links to those videos right down below or at the end of the video. From here on out, we're just going to talk about what Kelly and I think about the book as a whole, and less so the specifics of what's inside it. So if you aren't interested in hearing us wax rhapsodically about this book, check out the links below and jump ahead to find out what's in it.
Awesome.
So we can't really start talking about what we love about this book without talking about Xanathar himself.
I like Xanathar, but Monty, why don't you give us a little bit of a history lesson on who he is and where he comes from?
Yeah, so the Xanathar is the beholder crime lord of Waterdeep. Rumors suggest that there might actually have been multiple Xanathars over the history of the Forgotten Realms, but that is pure hearsay. There has only ever been one Xanathar.
But what about his goldfish?
And he keeps a pet goldfish named Silgar, not to be confused with Sildar from the D&D starter set. And the rumor is that the Xanathar's goldfish has been constantly replaced by his minions, unbeknownst to the Xanathar, every time the unfortunate fish expires.
Without him knowing, apparently. Well, that's one
Or
of the
maybe
rumors.
he knows and he just takes amusement in the fact that his minions are scrambling to replace the
I like to
goldfish.
pretend that although Xanathar is great and wise and powerful, he has no idea that his goldfish dies and just believes that it's lived as long as he has.
Yeah.
That seems fun to me.
So the book itself has lots of great flavor and lore in it. And that's not just the flavor and lore for helping you build your characters and your worlds out, but actually the whole book has Xanathar's jokes and insights, if you can call them that, throughout the book.
Some of them are groaners, but I don't know. I get a kick out of them. I like this one for the Barbarian right here about Barbarian rage. Rawr, I'm really angry. Funny, I don't feel any stronger. Maybe because I'm always angry. I'm always in top condition. Stands to reason.
Yeah, so some of them are funny, some of them are groaners, but overall I think it gives the book a nice touch to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it really keeps the focus of the book on the story, and I think that really comes out in every section on every character class, and particularly in the DM Toolkit section. Each class options part of Chapter 1, not only does it present you with anywhere from 2 to 4 subclasses, or 1 if you're a wizard. Sorry, wizards. It gives you also ideas for, like, quirky features for your character to have.
Like one of my personal favorites, the Barbarian Superstition chart that you can roll on, which includes things like they believe that all dwarves are the same as undead because they're underground. So they have no souls.
Makes sense.
Makes sense to a barbarian, apparently.
There's also great random encounter tables for DMs to use, but not only do these include monstrous combat encounters, but they include random things like you're wandering through the forest and you come across a pool of clear water and there are 1d6 animals sleeping beside it.
That's neat.
Right?
What could the animals be? Do you get to decide what the animals
Yeah,
are?
at that point, like, it's just a provocation for you to think about how this factors into your world and what you're going to do with it. But it really just gives you this opportunity for creativity and ideas. I also think that the way in which Xanathar's Guide to Everything presents rules options that are well integrated with the story speaks to what it talks about in the introduction. Which is that in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, it reminds us that the DM is the final arbiter of the rules, but the rules exist to help us tell a story. So the book's whole theme, I think, and it really runs through it, is this idea of giving you rules that empower you to make creative choices about your characters in play, but also that make the gameplay itself interesting.
And I think that in and of itself is one of the core fundamental values of D&D as a game. It's not The rules are never meant to be law. They're meant to be guidelines for you to create and imagine.
And I think as well, on top of that, what makes this so successful is that all of the content in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, almost all of it, went through a playtest phase through Unearthed Arcana. So if you look at this book and they're like, I saw that before on the internet, this is the final version of things like the Gloomstalker Ranger and the Hexblade, and the various Barbarian Oaths and several spells that have now gone through a lot of community playtesting and feedback to make sure that we've got kind of not only classes and race options and spells that are mechanically interesting, but also ones that have resonance with the players of D&D itself.
Yeah.
So I think that for that reason, the way this book was developed, the way that it's been presented, make it quite possibly one of the greatest D&D books ever published.
He's making bold statements now, guys.
I don't know. I think I really have a hard time like thinking back of like all the D&D books that I've ever picked up.
Which is every one that's ever come out.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch. I have a really hard time thinking of like a book that I reacted to this positively, both as a player and a DM. I think that in the past there were a lot of books that came out where I was so excited because it had a crazy new spell or a crazy new prestige class, but never a book that gave me so many ideas about like the characters themselves. I think Volo's Guide to Monsters comes pretty close as a DM, like for creative tools, but like Volo's Guide to Monsters just had a lot of great monster ideas, but like the mechanics of how to actually use the rules as a DM are really useful in this book. And the mechanical ideas that you get as a player are really useful, and I think that that makes it high quality. So that's what we think of Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Kelly, who do you think should pick up Xanathar's Guide?
Everyone should pick up this book as soon as possible.
Yeah, whether you're a player or a dungeon master, I think that this is the most essential rules expansion for D&D outside of the core rulebooks. You should even get a copy for your mom.
Why not? She might like it.
Yeah, everyone needs a copy of Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Now, if you're not completely convinced yet to go out and pick this book up, we've got a few more videos covering exactly what's in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, along with our own personal picks and favorites from what's in the book. That first video, dealing with the player's options in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, is right up over here.
And we'll also have a video on the DM Toolkit found in Xanathar's Guide right over here.
If you want to pick up a copy for yourself, follow the links right down below.
Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time
in the dungeon.